Okay. So, quick synopsis of this case. Martha, she is currently working for um, what's the company's name?
Potomac Waters.
Yeah, Potomac Waters.
Yeah.
And when she was finishing up with her MBA, she had the chance to either go back to the place that she interned at Deep Dive Pizza, or she had this chance at Potomac Waters. And she took the offer at Potomac Waters because she felt like it would help her better progress in her profession, I guess. Um, but then she's realizing it's not really all that it was cracked up to be, and now she has a decision whether or not to stay with the company, or she has a standing offer. She's in good terms with Deep Dive Pizza, so she could always go back there and just um, work for them. So I think her situation was kind of interesting. Um, I guess, what do you think is the cause of this dilemma that she has?
Well, I think she has two offers that are very they're just very different. I think she mentioned one the at Potomac Waters there was a $15,000 increase. Is that right?
I actually think Deep Dive was
Decrease.
the better.
Yeah.
Oh, Deep Dive was the
Deep
increase,
Dive's better.
but the other one but Potomac had a better opportunity for her to grow, and it was more nationally
Yeah.
recognized. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's tough because she had to weigh, non monetary value versus she had to see what was best for her, and they're just totally different. And
Mm-hmm.
that's really tough to do, I think.
Yeah, I think that's a hard thing to uh, decide from, is whether or not take the job that seems a little bit less inviting because it's a lower pay, but in hopes that in a couple a year or two, you can grow and learn more than you would have at this restaurant chain.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think she thought there was more growth at the Potomac one, and so it was worth the pay cut, or not
And
the
I
pay
think
increase.
maybe in real life there would have been, but the fact of who she's working with in her team,
Yeah,
I feel like is kind of hindering that growth and progression for her.
definitely.
Yeah, I think she was blindsided actually, because I think it said when she went there for or something, and everybody had all these fabulous things to say, and that one guy like sat and talked to her, and then she sees him like her first or second day at work, and he doesn't even like
Mm.
acknowledge that she's there. I think she was a
Yeah,
little
he
Yeah.
just kind of ignores her.
Which, in my opinion, honestly, and I know we're probably going to talk about it a little bit later, but that to me, there's no value to like that. That absolutely, you were right, Allison. She was blindsided. I can't imagine how much that would honestly stink to have your bosses and coworkers just pretend like you're not even. I mean, there's a ton of value with just being respected in the workplace. She's not getting that at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So we may have touched on it just a little bit, but um, what do you think is the cause of that environment that she's in with her coworkers and her bosses?
I think there's just a lack of, like, within the Potomac kind of like management, upper management, where the people she's dealing with, I think there's like a lack of teamwork and trust, and pretty much everything that, can make the upper management horrible, I think is what they're dealing with. And it's affecting her.
Hmm.
I also think there's a lack of communication
Mm-hmm.
along with that.
Well, and I wonder too if it's like has to do with like her boss or if it's widespread company wide, because even when they talked about like your 3-month evaluation, she heard about it from a person working in a different department. It was like, oh, well, did you get your 3-month evaluation? So I wonder if it's more of a dysfunction within that
Mhm.
team and not necessarily wide.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that makes sense. I could agree with that because it does seem like it's definitely just that. What's it? Fuller, whatever.
Follett, yeah.
Follett is the one who maybe there's the real big disconnect from her and the rest of the department heads.
And then there's the dynamic of is it Vaughn, the other coworker,
Mm-hmm.
and her having the affair.
Mm.
And so I feel like the team was kind of like a 3-person team. It was Follett, Vaughn, and Martha, but then because she's the third wheel,
Mhm.
the dynamics of the team relationship gets thrown off, and she kind of gets thrown under the bus sometimes.
Definitely.
Is there only just the 3 of them in this department?
That's what it sounded like. I don't know if that's true or not.
Yeah, at least from the reading, that's kind of what it seems like. Is it just them?
Any like relationship like that is even if it's just your really good friends, I just think that I don't know, that makes a bad work environment.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, definitely.
So what do you guys think about so in the case it covers her relationship with Follett and her relationship with Vaughn. And so what do you think is what do you think Follett is doing that's contributing to her questioning of loyalty to the company? What do you think Vaughn is doing to make her question whether or not she wants to leave?
Well, for Follett, I think it's pretty clear that she is very uninterested in, anything that Martha's doing. I mean, just from the beginning, it's like, oh, I didn't even, I was super unprepared. I didn't know you were coming in today. I didn't know this was your first day. And all she did was, send her a short little email saying, hey, like, how about you just go ahead and read all this stuff and then I guess we'll meet tomorrow. And then her meetings with her have always been very short, and the emails have been very short. So I think Follett just
And it's all, and it's like just go read stuff. Like there's no, just go read stuff.
there's no here, go do some work. It's like, okay, whatever, just go read and so I think Follett just could really care less about Martha and what she's doing.
Yeah, I think another big thing. So, kind of like we mentioned before, I don't understand sometimes when I hear these stories how companies aren't training or how they treat employees the way that they do. An example I used in my write-up wasn't the little shouting match that they got into. I think it was between Rinaldi and Vaughn, right? Well, that wasn't even my example. The example I used with just disrespecting and the way that she's treated was the first interaction she had with Vaughn. How he was like, he said, "Hey, she and I expect we want answers. We don't want questions. We want answers from you. And like, I'm just being straightforward and good luck." And it's just such a, like, if someone said that to me, my first interaction with them, I would think, wow, that person is mean, or that person does not want me here. It's just such a bad way to start a relationship.
Well, it makes me wonder, like, I definitely think for a company like this, it doesn't seem like I mean, it seems like, yes, obviously the work is important, but I feel like there was no training done for her or anything. It was just kind of like, here, I'm gonna throw you into the company, and then you're expected to, you know, do some work and actually be well, and no one's gonna show you what to do or anything. And it just seems like, they didn't really have a training policy or anything to be like, okay, this is how the company works. This is what we're going to do. I mean, at least from the reading, I didn't get that at all.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So what do you think, if Rinaldi were to stay with Potomac Waters, where would she go from here to try to better her situation? What could she do?
I know this isn't always the best answer, but honestly, if I were her, I would, it's always best, I think, to explain your situation when you're not feeling passionate or angry, just so that they know it's not just a heat of the moment type thing. It's well thought out, thought through. And then I would use the leverage at the other company and just say, listen, like I'm choosing between you guys and someone else right now, and you're paying me less and I'm being treated horribly, but I still chose you guys because I feel like there's a great potential here, but I need these few things to change. Otherwise, honestly, I'm out of here. Because if you don't need me and I'm going to be treated that way, then why stay here? Obviously said a little bit nicer, but I would just use the leverage at the other company. I would just tell them, hey, I can make more somewhere else tomorrow and be treated way better. And hopefully that helps them see, like, okay, we need to change our vibe with this new, with her. So
Yeah, and even if it doesn't change it, then she knows her answer that she's not really wanted there. So, and she can go to the company.
I'd put that she should ultimately, I said, quit Potomac Waters and go to the deep dive place, just because it seemed like she fit there so much better than she has been at Potomac Waters. And even, I mean, obviously 15 grand is a nice increase in pay, but just besides that, she was actually doing work and she felt needed, and, she was able to show, like, hey, I actually know what I'm doing.
And her bosses appreciated her, and coworkers appreciated her work too.
So ultimately,
what I found interesting though is she did that one project for the company, and who was it? Was it like a CEO or somebody like praised her? Like, that's some good stuff you've got there. This is the kind of stuff I want to see from you. I really think she's being held back by. I think the rest of Potomac would value in her.
To be honest, I think it was a stupid decision in the first place to ever leave this other company. Yeah. I mean, I know she needs to branch out, but maybe it wasn't stupid to leave, but it was a horrible choice to go where she went. Like, why would she go there?
Yeah.
She took a pay cut, and it's just, and on top of that, she's being treated horribly. It just doesn't make any sense to me.
I agree.
Yeah.
So, if she were to leave Potomac, what are some advantages and what are some disadvantages?
For leaving?
Yeah, for leaving. I guess we talked about advantages a little bit, but maybe what are some disadvantages to leaving Potomac?
Well, one disadvantage, one of the things that happened over a deep dive, when she rejected their offer and accepted the other people's, her old boss called her and basically said he was disappointed, but he wished her luck. So, I mean, she might still have a position there, but she's kind of not hit it very well off there either.
Yeah, maybe the relationship has changed because she took the other offer over them.
Yeah, I was gonna say, will they even really offer her that extra 15,000 now? I mean, really?
Yeah, I know in the case it says at one point she heard through the grapevine she's still on good standing there. But yeah, I guess you don't know what that really means though. Like, is it just like she shows up and she gets the original offer and the original relationships are still there, or has that dynamic changed a little bit?
I mean, I know they talk a lot about networking, and hopefully she's been in contact with them and kept that networking up with them, that she still has that good relationship, that it's not like all of a sudden, oh, now I want to come back.
Another disadvantage I could kind of think of is just from the reading was I kind of feel like Deep Dive maybe be like, it probably kind of seemed like it was only going to be really relevant for a couple years. You know, it was a chain restaurant, but it wasn't like they were nationwide chains. It was just kind of in the Chicago area. And so I kind of wondered, like, Potomac seemed like it was really a big company that was probably going to be around for a while. And if she leaves that to go to a smaller company, maybe, you know, in 10 years or so, 5 years, the company, you know, goes under or something. And so then she would be out of job sooner than if she was at Potomac still.
You know, it's also funny that dealing with people in business can be so different, usually so different than just going out and hanging out with them, doing something else besides business. And I've dealt with people that so this is one disadvantage of leaving, I think. I've dealt with people in my workplace that I mean, cannot stand. And there's actually one example I'm thinking of. He's actually gone now, and he and I did not get along pretty much at all. He didn't like me, and I didn't like him. And looking back on the situation, it was frustrating, but it was probably the time I learned the most about how to be efficient and how to like stay level-headed and work in those difficult situations. So, like, I don't know if she's able to figure out how to work well with them and stay positive. In my opinion, I think that's going to be a learning experience that she'll never have at Deep Dive. You know, it's nice to be respected and treated nice, but if she can learn how to gain their respect, and she could learn a ton by working with new people, working with a different, it's just a different experience for her.
Mm-hmm.
I agree, because I think even if she could somehow get out of that department, not work very long in that department, and get out and get somewhere else where she can get the good training or whatever, because I think that, you know, her doing that one report and getting the respect of the one, I can't remember if it was the CEO or what.
I think he's the vice president of marketing.
Yeah, but if she just continues to try to do her best in there, her name's going to get out.
Mm-hmm. But she did mention...
She's just going to have to bear with some crap.
She did mention, though, like, oh, I could, maybe I could ask whatever that dude is to be, to switch out. But how would that look if I, like, how would it look to everybody else if I was like, hey, I don't like working with these people. Can you switch me over? Would it look, would it do good for her, or would it look bad on her part for trying to get out early? Can't remember where she said it, but so that was one thing.
Yeah, I think that was like one of her options or something.
Yeah.
Should I go and ask to be moved somewhere else? Yeah.
Yeah, it says she might brand herself as a difficult employee if she made a request to move. So, would it look bad on her to try to switch departments just because, she's not getting along with them?
Been in the workforce forever.
Yeah.
So how do you go to a boss and say, you know what, you need to give me more stuff. You need to give me a chance. You need to give me an opportunity to prove myself. Say that? Because I think that's what she needs. She needs a project. She needs to be put in charge of something. She needs to show what she can do.
That's a good question.
I think it depends on your relationship with the boss. If you've got, if you can get on a conversational relationship where, you feel at least comfortable to have a conversation with them, I think it'll be easier to bring up what you're feeling versus if this boss is intimidating to you and you don't feel like that he even listens to you, going up to him and saying what you want or what you need. I think that'll be different. But I feel like the feeling of the case is that she can talk with Follett, and so if she gets to the point where she feels like just talking to the bosses will fix her situation, I think she could just go up and bring it up in conversation that she wants to be challenged a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
With a boss like this, that's something I think would be so. When you're talking about, if she were to walk in and talk to her boss about like her feelings and the way that she's been treated, and that's one thing. But if you walk in and you just lay out facts and just say, so the first day I walked in, you guys didn't know I was going to be here, and then my assignment for the next couple days was to read, and just lay out facts, things that happen on the table, and then tell them, and then explain that you believe that that's wrong. Because people can't argue facts, like things that have actually happened. If she walks in and says, "Oh, he's treating me mean," or it can be subjective, but I think she should just say, "Hey, this is what's happened," and like, do you in a nice way, just basically, do you guys think that that's like how it should have been handled, or how could I have fixed that, or how could I have, that shouldn't have been that way? And I mean, can they really argue facts? Like, can they argue that they made her read for 3 days straight or whatever, 2 days?
Yeah.
So to me, that's a huge thing with a boss like that doesn't seem to care too much about emotion. You have to just.
Yeah.
So ultimately, who feels like she should leave and who feels like she should stay?
I think she should leave.
I think she should leave as well.
I'm torn. I can see on both. But I just think for her own sanity and just happiness, she should leave.
A part of me in her situation, sometimes I feel like I don't want to quit on something that might turn around. And so I think I would stay a little bit longer, but if it doesn't switch, switch in that time that I've set up apart, then I'll probably leave.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I mean, but from what I don't know, just me personally, I think from the reading, it really doesn't seem like Follett or Vaughn really had any intention of changing. It doesn't seem like they're good people.
Yeah.
So
well, from the get-go, they nailed her down as like a know-it-all MBA. Like, like I think she came in with a target on her back to begin with.
Yeah.
Just based on her age too, which is so silly.
Yeah.
So on this sheet that I'm going over as the leader, it gives us the end of the story, how it plays out after the case is done writing. And so it says here that Follett and Vaughn both left shortly, and Rinaldi learned that Follett had been job hunting when Rinaldi was already hired and working there. And so then Rinaldi got 2 new bosses who admired her work and relied on her, and she was promoted ahead of schedule.
No.
So it just worked out perfectly for her. Follett and Vaughn both left.
Well, that's good then.
Happy ending.
And so what principles outlined in this week's reading do you think applies to her situation?
Like in the book reading, the dysfunctional book?
Yeah, that's the book that you're referring to, I think.
Well, I feel like the dysfunctional book is just starting out being dysfunctional.
Well, her situation was a little dysfunctional, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think.
I think the lack of trust. There was definitely. I mean, clearly, if Follett was job hunting, she didn't really care about, what was going on at Potomac, and so she didn't really bother communicating and trusting, her job there. So
yeah. And I think going back to the Speed of Trust book, you can see all over the place in Potomac how there was a lack of trust between coworkers and bosses and management and stuff like that. So that could add to the dysfunction there.
I think a lack of respect.
Mm-hmm.
Which I think results from a
But I
lack
think
of
when you're-
training, probably just not being able to train them properly.
You wonder if Follett was not properly trained herself, and that's why she wanted out.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, that's what I wrote in my write up. Is it, you know, it never talked about whether or not she was trained, and I assume that if she wasn't trained, then the other Vaughn probably wasn't properly trained, because it seemed like he just kind of came in and then got promoted. And so I was like, you know, if they don't have anybody training people, it can lead to a lot of confusion, because you just get there and you're like, all right, now what do I do?
Yeah.
And then there's like, okay, we'll just read forever. And that should be good.
Another thing to recognize too that I actually just learned this last year is that typically every single person has their own boss that they have to worry about. And, you know, whether it's the VP or an area manager, you know, she has to report to someone who is probably not treating her very well either, or maybe that's their management style, and it's being reflected all the way down, you know, all the way to her. So it's got to start from either someone has to break the chain, or it has to start from the top. You have to show an example to the president, CEO, all the way down to the lowest level employees. There has to be a precedent set of, hey, this is how we treat each other. And if it's not from the get-go, if it's not, it's just going to be a disaster.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, that's basically all that we have to go over for this week's case. Is there any other comments you guys have about it? Solutions or ideas?
All good here.
Yeah, I got nothing.
Okay, then we can end it. Who knows who's leading next week? Okay. So we're getting there. What, we got 5 more of these, right?
We only have like 3 more. I don't think it goes the full
Oh, really?
time.
Oh, gee, really?
I got it just pulled up. Let me see. Like I do lesson 9, and then Michael does lesson 11, and Sam does lesson 12, and that's it. That's all that was on there.
Okay.
So there's no 10?
No
Interesting.
10 or 13 or 14.
Interesting.
Well, okay. We can do that.
Next week will be lesson 9, and I'll do that one.
Do we have a...
Everybody good?
Yep.
Sounds good to
Hey,
me.
thanks, guys. And
Post the
also,
broadcast.
whoever's doing the thing next week, also, I'm sorry, I'm typically always out with my phone.
All
I
right.
can't just sit down with my laptop. The invitation was perfect. So sorry for whoever has to do it next week. I don't want to have to do the whole emailing thing. Would you mind, or it's you, Allison, right? Would you mind just sending me a link once
Yep.
you're in the call? Or, I'm sorry, an invitation.
Yep,
not
I
not
will.
a link. Thank you so much.
Yep, no problem.
Thanks, guys.
Okay.
See you
All right.
later.
week.
See you guys next week.
Bye.
Bye.